Hello everyone, how you going? Welcome to the 10 most unusual extreme sports. Now I'm sure everyone would have seen a sport they go, oh that's definitely not for me, but I'm curious to see how strange and weird and wacky does it get in the world of sport.
10 most unusual extreme sports. Chess boxing. Most sports lay claim to boasting a mental and physical component, but few can compete with the dual nature of chess boxing.
Wow.
The sport, which marries the pugilistic power of boxing with the mental acuity required in chess, is comprised of 5 2-minute sparring rounds and 6 games of speed chess. The first competitor to earn a knockout or to checkmate their opponent is declared the winner. It stands to reason that the thinking demands of chess would grow considerably more difficult after sustaining a few blows to the head.
You don't say, man, that would just be brutal. By the time both your mind and your body is just completely fatigued, the end must just be ridiculous. Just people getting so scrappy because they're just completely exhausted. But really, it just completely caught me by surprise. I mean, I know that it was going to be the unusual extreme sports, but come on, that was just completely unheard of. I also love that the entire game then takes place inside the boxing ring. It's just like, okay, we're really sweaty. Okay, now time to just completely zone in and just play a game of speed chess. I mean, I guess at least it's speed chess and not just regular chess. Otherwise, this boxing match, whatever you want to call it, will go on for hours and hours and hours and hours, days probably. But I wonder why they get to have headphones. Is it for the crowd? Because obviously the crowd is there for a boxing match as well, and so they might be a little bit more vocal than a normal chess crowd, and so they get noise cancelling headphones. I can only assume that's what it's going to be. And then even something like this where you've just completely shifted your entire mentality. You're just, okay, I'm just going to shake your hand. We're going to have a very respectful chess match right now. I mean, yes, boxing often has quite a bit of respect involved unless there's some serious feud going on, but generally after the fight's done, they kind of just, that's the entire thing done. And so in that regard, there is just zero aggression. It's honestly, I can understand why it could be a popular sport because it is such a dichotomy between the two, and it would be quite interesting to see how these two people, which are obviously going to be highly skilled in both, just are able to melt their mind together.
Volcano boarding.
Wait,
Every
what?
year, thousands of thrill-seeking travelers make their trek to Nicaragua's Cerro Negro mountain in order to participate in the surfing of an active volcano. Boarders are dressed in protective jumpsuits, knee pads, and helmets to protect against the rugged terrain of this 2,380-foot volcano, relying on a small piece of specially constructed plywood to help stay upright as they reach speeds of 80 kilometers per hour.
Wow.
Since its creation in 2005, volcano boarding has attracted more than 10,000 participating daredevils.
Well, look, even though it does have the name volcano boarding, which kind of gives you the perception that you're going to be surfing lava, I feel as though it's not the most dangerous thing, considering I guess if you fall off, you might break a wrist or you might go for a tumble, but you're not just going to really hit anything. It's just gravel or I guess asphalt or ash. And judging by the photos, half of these people are sitting down. I mean, I guess if you make the choice to stand up and you're going to go for more of a tumble, but overall, you're not going to really run into anything. You're also not going to really go anywhere or fall into anything. So besides the fact that if you do come off, you may grate yourself in half on the extremely hard and sharp rock, but then that's why you're wearing the big orange jumpsuits, just to protect against any of that. And so overall, I feel as though this one is definitely less dangerous than it sounds. I guess the only thing you do want to make sure that you look out for is just if any lava starts coming over the edge, just make sure you skate down, you don't tumble, you don't fall off or anything like that. You hit that 80k an hour or however fast you can go, and you just outrun the lava the best you can.
Cheese rolling. For over 200 years, Brits gathering in Cooper's Hill during England's spring bank holiday have incurred bumps, bruises, and broken bones in pursuit of cheese. Such is the nature of the manic, fun chaos that is the annual cheese rolling event, where a judge rolls a wheel of cheese down a hill and numerous participants follow. Inevitably, the chasers suffer their fair share of tumbles and falls as they navigate the tricky terrain. While a wheel of cheese may seem like a piddling prize to risk life and limb for, the British tradition continues to grow in popularity and now welcomes participants from all over the world.
Well, that must be true because halfway through that, here it is, I just went, hang on a second, and I saw it instantly. I didn't have to get many frames, but I went, that's an AFL jersey, and I just picked it up and went, okay, that's very strange because the context doesn't make sense because that's an AFL jersey in the UK doing cheese rolling. I mean, that is certainly a pretty big mix of hobbies right there, or interest nonetheless, but no, just to have a cheese rolling, is the objective to catch it? Is the first person to get down the bottom of the hill to get the cheese? Do you get to keep the cheese? Is it the same hill every year so you get to go and practice? Obviously, there's not really a dress code considering one guy's just in virtually nothing and the other guy's in like motocross gear, it looks like. I mean, to be fair to him, just some of these images certainly make me feel like motocross gear isn't enough. Like, what is going on in this one? Every person is in a different position and they all look painful, especially in a case like this. And so yeah, like I said, you wouldn't think that people would be willing to risk life and limb just for a cheese roll or a roll of cheese or a wheel of cheese, I think. But hey, I guess cheese can certainly be pretty expensive, and other than that, just getting to roll down a hill, a muddy hill at that, just sounds like a fun day out.
Unicycle Polo. There's a humorous contrast between the dignified nobility and refinement of the sport of horse polo and the silly awkwardness of unicycle polo. However, the execution is considerably more difficult, as focusing on balance and coordination while attempting to strike a ball into opposing goals can prove to be no easy task. It is certainly a different challenge to attempt competing on one wheel rather than being balanced on a four-legged horse.
Well, you don't say. It doesn't really get any further than that unless they're suddenly able to do it in a car. My goodness, a unicycle by itself is already insane. And then the fact that you have to then go and almost wrestle other people with a ball, with then what looks like a hockey stick on a court or outdoors, the entire thing just sounds like madness. And this comes directly after just looking at some cheese rolling, and so you certainly know you've got a random sport or a weird and wacky sport that just sounds dangerous when you got unicycles and sticks and balls involved and it beats out cheese rolling down a hill. I mean, it certainly sounds very impressive to watch, but I feel as though if you can do that, you can basically be on the national team. Surely there just isn't enough people in the world or in your country to be able to just make any sort of competition. You rock up to the training and you're like, cool, I'm number one in the world all of a sudden because I can ride a unicycle and hold a stick. But either way, to be able to combine the two sports to where you're basically an ice hockey player on a unicycle, I don't understand how you don't lose a leg in a wheel or anything like that. And to see a photo like this and you see the kind of lean and stopping power and turning prowess that they have, it is honestly an incredible set of skills that these people have developed, and I'd love to see in a real life game, or I guess just like a movie of it.
Zorbing.
Oh, here we go.
To zorb is to roll around in what is essentially an oversized, cushioned hamster ball. There's an undeniable rush in the fast-paced, disorienting feel of the unpredictable, out-of-control movement of rolling around within the ball where you are situated in the middle of two inflatable plastic balls in order to cushion impact. The air in between them serves as a shock absorber as you experience the impact of the bouncing ball.
Well, I feel as though everyone at once in their life would have at least seen or heard about this entire sport, if you can even call it that. I feel as though it's more of an activity than a sport because you're kind of just rolling down a hill, but then I guess that's what cheese rolling is. You're just rolling down a hill, and so is that a sport or is that a hobby or is that an activity? Who knows? Either way, this one certainly looks as though it's pretty darn fun, just having that kind of invulnerable feeling as you're rolling down the hill, just taking all the bumps, and I guess it's also disorienting, but like they said, that's kind of part and adds to the entire experience. And then I have seen, like in some of these photos, where they put water in it, so then you just kind of in a water ride the entire way down as well. And then I guess you get the ones which aren't as big, because then people just stand up in them and crash into each other. All of these different types of just massive inflatable balls just look like a lot of fun. But like I said, I don't fully know if it is truly a sport, because rolling down a hill where you're literally just getting strapped in, most likely by someone else, and then just rolling down a hill, is that really a sport when there is zero skill or control or anything involved? I don't know.
Train surfing. Originally made popular in the 1980s in Germany when it was known as S-Bahn surfing, the incredibly unsafe and illegal sport of train surfing has enjoyed something of a renaissance in the last 10 years. The sport, which usually involves climbing and surfing atop moving trains and subway cars, made its return to prominence in 2005 when a gang leader in Frankfurt known as the Train Rider famously surfed the Intercity Express, the fastest train in Germany. This practice has been a serious issue in South Africa, where many people have been killed or injured via ill-advised surfing stunts.
Well, this is certainly a bit different to the last one, where you kind of are immortal in a lot of ways, a lot of those situations in the Zorb ball, where this one, it's just people thinking they're immortal, but they're really not. I mean, obviously this is just not recommended to any degree. I'm sure it'd be exhilarating because you're traveling, especially on the high-speed train. That would be insane, just with all the air and just turning a corner all of a sudden, because sometimes you can nearly fall over when you're inside the train and you got something to hold onto, let alone when you're just traveling outside with all the wind and you got a kind of slippery roof and all those extra situations to deal with. I can understand how it would be exhilarating, but dangerous game they're playing. I mean, the history of it is certainly interesting. The fact that it was originally made popular in the 1980s in Germany when it was known as S-Bahn surfing. There is no way that if you would ask me where do you think train surfing would have been invented or popularized in, Germany would have probably been basically the last on the list. But hey, they can prove me wrong in this regard. You know, it was the 1980s. I mean, I guess then it did come back recently as well, so I wonder what that gap was for. Perhaps it was just a technology improvement, you know, with security cameras and all these tracking systems, it becomes more difficult, or maybe just generally security got more tight. Either way, I feel as though this one is the first one where I'm just going to have to give it a pass. I just feel like the risks outweigh the rewards.
Ferret leggings.
What?
Some sports are less than athletic prowess and more about, well, trapping a ferret in your pants and hoping for the best. That is essentially the central theme of Ferret Leggings, where a group of almost exclusively male participants secure a ferret in their pants and simply seeing who can endure the biting, scratching terror the longest. A man named Reg Malore holds the supposed world record time in the event, maintaining a ferret in his trouser for 5 hours and 30 minutes.
What did this guy do to just be able to get a ferret to stay in there for 5 hours and 30 minutes? Honestly, did he give it something or feed it too much so it just kind of went into a food coma, so then it just completely passed out and he didn't even notice anymore for 5.5 hours? That's a ridiculous amount of time. I'm sure most people like 10 seconds and they're gone. I mean, also, I'm not entirely sure how much the ferrets particularly like it. Considering they said that they bite, scratch and everything else, it's kind of an indicator that it's probably not going to be the nicest thing for the ferret. And really, it's things like this where I just go, how does anyone come up with this activity in the first place? I cannot call it a sport. It just isn't. Really, they said it themselves. Yeah, some sports are less about athletic prowess and more about, well, trapping a ferret in your pants and hoping for the best. That isn't a sport. That's just kind of, I guess, having too much alcohol and hoping for the best. But look, it looks as though it's just an event that is held at some kind of fete, fair, carnival, whatever you want to call it. It gathers a crowd, and hey, if people want their little bit of 2 minutes or 5.5 hours in the spotlight, then I guess that's just on them.
Blassaval.
What?
This visually stunning sport, originally from Belgium, is essentially volleyball on steroids. Played on its own custom-made inflatable court surface, competing teams of 3 to 5 players stand on either side of a high net and must keep the ball in the air with any part of their body. To add further excitement, the court includes a trampoline on each side, with each team's respective attacker positioned to slam the ball into the opposite side of the net.
Wow. Now see, this one I can certainly understand. Just some of the moves or the images that they've got here of people just being completely upside down, going for a kick for some reason. I don't know why you would do that because it seems more difficult, but hey, if you just want absolute power, you want to drive that ball into the ground or into the trampoline, then I can certainly understand why you would want to just use the power of your legs and just mechanical advantage of your legs. But either way, what a spectacular sport that would be to watch. Just seeing everyone just flipping around, like what kind of move is that? Maybe that accounts for most of the appeal in the first place. Both players and spectators alike just want to see people being both athletic but also just generally acrobatic in their entire volleyball motion. Volleyball is a team sport that originated in Spain. Okay, well there we go, and it was conceptualized by Belgium Philippe, that's not for me, in 2005. I mean, it clearly has a bit more of a setup than standard beach volleyball, but honestly, looking at that and looking at some of the images, it seems like it's well worth it.
Giant pumpkin kayaking.
What?
If Charlie Brown had been an extreme sports enthusiast, you'd have to believe his fascination with the Great Pumpkin would have led him to this annual tradition in Oregon. 600 to 800 pound locally grown pumpkins are hollowed out and raced along a lake. In addition to the elements, regatta participants have to contend with vessels that aren't necessarily hydrodynamic or buoyant, nor does the sliminess of their interior make for a particularly pleasing boating experience. Capsizing does happen on occasion, which is why rescue boats are on hand.
Well, look, this one is just another one that has to be an activity. The fact that it's held only once a year in a particular part of the world, it just has to be an activity. The novelty of it alone is enough to just balance the scales and just go, okay, that is completely fine. You know, it clearly draws a crowd and everyone seems to dress up and have a good time, so it's not a serious event. I mean, I'm sure some people take it seriously, and obviously the growing of the pumpkins would be very serious because to get them that big is impressive. I've never ever seen a pumpkin anywhere near that big. I honestly don't know how you even grow and then move a pumpkin that big. Do you just sling it up, or do you pick it up by the stem, or do you pull it on a pallet? Too many options, but I feel like it's just bound to break as soon as you touch it. I mean, of course, it is just a scaled up pumpkin, so it's going to have nice thick walls as we can see here, but it's still impressive that it can hold someone in it and be a boat. I mean, that was something I didn't think of at all, just the fact about how slimy and weird it would be in the first place. I'm sure once you're in it, you kind of get used to it, but just stepping into a pumpkin of all things being, okay, I'm just about to float this thing down the river, that would be the strangest part.
Extreme ironing.
Of course.
According to the Extreme Ironing Bureau, which apparently is a real thing, the sports of extreme ironing combines the thrills of an extreme outdoor activity with the satisfaction of a well-pressed shirt. The central point of this admittedly tongue-in-cheek sport is to avoid wrinkling in the most remote, extreme settings by toting an ironing board along with you as you explore caves, forests, mountaintops, and just about anywhere else you can think of. Britain's Phil Shaw is widely considered to be the founder of the sport, even toted an ironing board during the 2012 Hastings Half Marathon, pressing clothes along the way.
Wow. My favorite one was just the one underwater. Honestly, that's not extreme ironing anymore. That's just extreme almost electrocution. I don't know where you're getting your power from, but you certainly have to be careful. That is not recommended to be putting an iron underwater and then also being underwater with the iron. But I do love this one because like they said, it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek. People are just doing their daily activities, if you call extreme sports daily activities, and then they've just gone, stuff it, let's have a bit more fun, just bring an ironing board and an iron along and we'll just take a photo. Honestly, it's all for the photo and less for the actual activity, because I can only imagine lugging an ironing board and an iron around certainly isn't the fun part of the entire experience. But then you see some of the places that these people have taken, I'm like, what is going on? How have they managed to do that? You have to jump out, or someone has to jump out, and then you just got to get into a formation and then not drop it, or I guess you tether it to yourself. Either way, it just seems like for every single one of these, it's such a hassle to do this, but it's all just in pursuit of the perfect iron shirt, so that I guess you can then just have work at 9 and I guess activities and everything else at 10. And so I would just love to talk to this guy, Phil Shaw. How did he come up with the idea in the first place? What was his first implementation, and how did he get it to grow? Like in 2012, did he just start posting it online and people went, I want to do that too? Because if I saw that, I would certainly not be doing that. I go, that's interesting, a little bit weird, but definitely not for me, because I just don't want to be lugging an ironing board in the middle of nowhere. But regardless, so many of these sports are just completely insane. It certainly opened my eyes up to things that I had no idea that was even a thing. I never even would have thought it could be a thing. But of course, you were just taking something random into the middle of nowhere, and then like with this one, just the mental and the physical aspects and the talents of some of these people are ridiculous. And so I guess if nothing else, this video just opened my eyes into a whole bundle of sports where I can go, oh yeah, that'd be awesome to do. That one I'm kind of mediocre on, and that one I just want to completely avoid. It's just not for me. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to do the YouTube algorithm things down below. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you are watching, then make sure to go check out any other ones I've done. Also, make sure to go check out the original video down in the description below. Or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.